Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Now you might be looking at the gameplay footage and thinking to yourself, am I gonna talk about Yakuza Kiwami 3? And the answer to that is not really. Listen, I've already made my stance. I'm not buying this game, so I did install the demo because I was a little bit curious because I saw a lot of people talking about the fact that the game looked washed out and like the visuals were pretty hideous and whatever. I was just like, dog, what the fuck happened since the last time I played a more recent and really got good to good game? So I was like, did it really look that bad? Um, I mean, I guess I'll briefly share my thoughts on that, but like, I don't really care that much about that. I did actually want to talk about something else that's kind of funny. Not funny actually. It's mostly kind of exciting. Now it's very nerdy, so I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if some of y'all didn't even fucking understand what the hell I was talking about. But as I'm sure you guys know, I'm a Linux gamer. I mostly play games on Linux. Actually, you know the whole I think it's like Steam Roundup where you like they give you like a bunch of stats for like how 2023 in general has 2025 in general has been as far as like what games you played, how many hours you spent, what trophies you collected. And to me it showed like a pretty sizable percentage of my gaming experience was on Linux and the other part was on Steam Deck, and there was no mention of Windows, which kind of surprised me because I was like, wait a minute, there's no way. I'm fairly certain I've booted up Windows for like testing some games, so I don't even know if that stat is completely accurate. But I would say that it does kind of reflect the fact that for the past couple of years, I've pretty much been primarily a Linux gaming, at least when it comes to PC. Obviously, I still play on consoles, but on PC, it's like, yeah, Linux is really all I need. I don't really Oh, so that's how you do the combo. So, okay. Some of y'all might be really confused, but in Kiwami 3, they revived the classic Dragon of Dojima combo, but they did kind of bringing some aspects of like the new. I think they call it like reborn dragons, like the community. For example, this combo right here, where you click light once and then you press triangle to finish the combo. That's mostly from the newer Dragon Engine Dragon of Dojima combo style. Um, but in general, this is pretty, you know, this is like very classic. But I noticed that the throw is also from the classic one. But I remember when when I initially played the demo for this, it's like I could have sworn I gotten this combo here, which used to be a grab to a throw, and in the past you had to essentially press circle to grab, and then you had to press circle to essentially throw them away. But now to do that, you have to press triangle and you have to press circle and then triangle, which I was very confused. 'Cause I was like, dude, I'm fairly certain I did that. So why the fuck am I using? Why the fuck do I have the classic throws? So I guess that part's been clarified. But yeah. Anyway, I've been mostly playing games on Linux, and one of the things that have sort of been maybe not necessarily a challenge, but more so something that I never fully got accustomed to, and that is going full blown Wayland. Now, to explain why, in general, I use the Wayland protocol. So, for a very long time, X11 was sort of like the standard for like display servers, because it's like a legacy thing, and even till this day, there's still a lot of really good reasons to still use Xorg, especially if you have NVIDIA cards. But the only thing with Xorg is that, once again, it is a pretty old display server, and it's also very bloated. And there's also not really a ton of advancements that happens there. Like, there's not like the project overall doesn't really get like a ton of updates. Meanwhile, Wayland Wayland is constant. Well, maybe not constantly, because they do have a process of accepting commits that's like really counterintuitive. But regardless of how you want to view things, there's a lot of things that are happening in the Wayland side of things that's really excited. Things like, for example, HDR, which, by the way, I can enable HDR, but I'd rather not, because I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see it on screen, because I don't know if the footage is gonna get recorded with HDR, but like in my on my screen, when I turn on HDR, it looks really bad. So for this game, I prefer to disable it. I'll have to test it on other games, but the point is, HDR is not really something that you can take advantage of if you're on the Xorg side of things. And technically speaking, I have been using Wayland for a few years, but when it came to gaming, I was mostly using X Wayland, and X Wayland is sort of like a compatibility. Well, I don't know compatibility layer, but like it's sort of like a way for you to, like, if you're someone that has like the Wayland server, then, and you know, there were still some games, no, maybe not just games, but like a lot of programs in general that still required Xorg for better compatibility. Then in general, like X-Wayland was kind of like a way for apps that still relied on the X11 display server to essentially work there. And for a lot of games, it's still the case. Like in general, you are gaming on X-Wayland for the most part. But you know, obviously, if you're gaming on X-Wayland, you know, one of the things that you're missing out, as an example, is HDR. And so I thought to myself, you know, very recently, Proton, Wine, and all that stuff, they've merged like the native Wayland driver. So I thought to myself, you know what? You know, I've been using Wayland for a long time. Why not just kind of go full-blown Wayland with gaming? And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Like right now, I'm playing Kiwami 3 with the native Wayland driver. There is something you have to do in order to get this to work. So, one second. Let me just open my fucking Kate file. Cause actually no, I think I can just open the Steam client. So to get Wayland, because right now Proton still relies primarily on X Wayland, but to run the native driver, first of all, you do need a fairly recent Proton GE or Proton EM or the CatchyOS version of Proton to get the native driver, the native Wayland driver working. And then you also have to add in these commands, these launch commands. Proton enable Wayland, that's the one for enabling the native Wayland driver. Now I did end up adding some additional things, like for example, Wayland drv underscore primary underscore monitor equals dp3. Now the reason why I added this command is because in my experience of using the native Wayland driver, it does not do a very good job at using the primary monitor of my computer. It's always going to default, at least in my experience, it seems to always like weirdly default to like some random monitor, or maybe it's like the furthest one to the left or something like that, because like Wayland and primary monitors don't really both, primary displays in general, they don't really both too well. And so I had to add in this command to essentially force Wayland to use this device. And there is a way that you can find which one you're supposed to be using. So you can type XRANDR and it'll show a list of all of the monitors that are connected to your PC. So I know the monitor that I needed to be the default is this one. It's my 1440p monitor, and I know it's called DP3, so I ended up adding DP3 here. And that's something that you will probably need. The other thing is, I also did enable HDR, but once again, this game, you know, I don't know, at least with this game, I didn't really like the way HDR worked. Now, there is another command that I also would recommend depending on the game. Let me show you right now. It's called, oh fuck, me zooming this in is probably a bad idea because then I have to zoom out later, but that's fine, it's in 200. But yeah, it's this one, Proton Prefer SDL1. So the reason why you might need this command is because if you enable the Steam controller, because for example, I have a DualSense controller, and you know, every once in a while I will find, especially older games, that just don't really work super well with this controller, and so I have to enable the Steam controller. But the problem is that whenever you do that, for some reason, Wayland is not really it's not really actually fucking using the enable Steam input. That's the one that was what I was thinking about, the Steam input. It just doesn't really use it, and so I have to force the Proton Pro 4 STL. That's the only way I'm able to get games to use the Steam input. Otherwise, it just doesn't really work. So these 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse are the commands that you will probably need if you want a game with native Wayland. But yeah, as you can see right now, like, I'm having a pretty comfy experience. Now, I am wondering if there's like any performance costs to using native Wayland. I've heard mixed opinions, so I'm honestly not sure if it's one way or the other. Apparently, if you're on Nvidia, the performance cost might be a lot more noticeable. Meanwhile, on AMD, it's like maybe not. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's best if I don't think too much about the performance. By the way, there's one thing about this game that's pissing me off. So it's this fucking these little like not suitcase, these little cases that are spread around in the city. That's something that's really specific to like the Ichiban games, but for some reason this is sort of like becoming the standard for Yakuza games in general, and that's kind of pissing me off. But anyway, that's just me being autistic for no reason. Oh yeah, I guess while I'm playing this game, let's go to the infamous area that people have been talking about. I think it's here? No, it's not here. Where the fuck is it again? Yeah, it's actually, no, it is here, but I have to go right there. But hang on, let me just beat these goons. Let me just beat these fucking goons. Get the fuck out of here. But yeah, a lot of people say this game looks really fucking bad. I don't view it that way. I'll say one thing though. This game definitely does look, it looks kind of oversaturated, and it also kind of feels like it's missing some shaders. Like here, I feel like I would have expected some degree of like shading, and it just doesn't feel that way. It almost feels like this is like I don't know. It feels like an alpha build when I go to this area as an example. It's like it just feels like it's missing some shading around the character models. But regardless, let me just skip this part. Actually, the water doesn't even look too bad from this angle. But if I skip this, the water looks way worse. Like, what the fuck? Like, from that cutscene, the water didn't even look that bad. But for some reason, wait, is this like a? Oh, I have to. Dying won't solve anything, I guess. Then skip this. Listen, I don't actually want to do this story. I don't give a shit. Were they a magician? Skip. Oh my god. I shouldn't have picked this. And I'm fighting against a bunch of goons. The other thing that I also kind of saw people talk about is the fact that people didn't really like the combat here. To me personally, it feels pretty smooth. I don't know if it's just me, but like, I'm overall I'm pretty okay with how this game plays. But I will say that might be in part because the most recent Yakuza game that I played is Kiwami 2, and Kiwami 2 definitely does not feel smooth to play. So yeah. I also heard that like Blockuza is back, which, I mean, if we're talking about these goons, then yeah, but like, I don't know if you guys saw the like enemies that I was fighting a while back. It's like they're not exactly like fucking tanks or anything. Like, this guy's blocking, but I'm pretty sure that's just because it's the NPC type. I'm fairly certain that not every fucking goon out here is like a Yakuza 3 remastered level blocking cancers. So yeah, overall, my impressions on the visuals is like, I definitely do think this looks worse than, like, for example, I think Yakuza 6 looks fucking beautiful. No, wait, no, fuck Yakuza 6. Like a Dragon, the man who erased his name looked really gorgeous. I'd even say that the Judgment games also look pretty gorgeous, and so I definitely do feel like this game, I don't think it looks as bad as like the Pirate Yakuza game, like that game just looked really washed. Like it felt very washed. But this one, I don't know. A part of me kind of appreciates seeing Okinawa in the Dragon Engine, but I will also say that like this water here, it feels really off. It feels really fucking off. I doubt they're going to patch this, but yeah. Oh boy, definitely not a good look for. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I am eventually going to play Yakuza 3. I might still need to do some like story content on the side from like the Yakuza 0, Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2. There's still some content that I want to finish before I get to Yakuza 3. But this game, I don't know, man. I did hear like a pretty okay recommendation, which is, you know, if you don't want to support this game, but you're still interested, then I don't know, maybe buy it used or something like that. And I might do that actually, because I don't know. I did hear there was a really fucking bad retcon that happened, but I'm not really gonna talk about it because it's very spoiler heavy. But I don't know. A part of me is kind of curious to. I don't know, man. I really don't want to look at Kagawa's face at all. Like, if I see that dude on screen, I'm just gonna get really pissed off. You know what? I don't even know if I want to play this game used. Oh god, nah. I think I'm skipping this game. I don't think it's worth it. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna skip the demo. I don't know. The demo. Yeah, this area here, it definitely looks bad. It definitely looks bad. Again, I don't know if this is gonna get patched in the final build. I'd say probably not. I actually haven't tried Mine, but to be honest with you, like I don't even know if I have the balls to try it out. I mean, fine, I will. Oh, I closed the game. Actually, you know what? Even better. But yeah, overall, I was pretty okay with the combat. It feels pretty overall pretty smooth, pretty fluid. It looks nice. It feels nice in my opinion. And the graphics, I think there are some areas that look better than others. Like for example, if you look at the cutscenes overall, they actually do look pretty gorgeous. Um, I do think though that some areas look better than others. Like certain spots in Okinawa, like that spot in specific just looked bad, and so yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. But again, knowing how this game is gonna come out in like what on the 11th of February, I doubt they're going to fix these problems. Like oftentimes the demo is very much representative of what you're gonna get in the final build. So at this point, I'm not really gonna hold up much faith that they're gonna fix these issues. But yeah, but yeah, overall, I just kind of wanted to rant about Linux gaming because I think I think it's time. I think it's time for me to go full blown native Wayland guy. I might as well, honestly. I mean, I already kind of use Pipewire. I'm already using Wayland in general. Oh, one other thing, something that I found to be really cool about Linux that's been happening recently is that so for a very long time, and I know some of y'all gonna think, wow, really it took this long, but listen, man, it's an open source project, okay? You get kind of some slack, but like yeah, for a very long time, HDR didn't really work with YouTube videos. Uh, now it does though. Actually, it has the option for HDR, and yeah, it looks good. On my screen, it looks pretty nice actually. I mean, it looks way better than what it did on fucking Pirate Yakuza. Again, I don't know. I will say one thing though. I'm not gonna blame the game. It's probably something with the HDR protocol that's built into Wayland for gaming. So I'm not gonna blame the game or anything like that. But like, it definitely did not. I would not play it in those conditions. But yeah, cool stuff happening all around. One other thing that I did want to that I did also want to point out is there was like an article from Phoronix that apparently with the upcoming Mesa 26.0 there's gonna be some improvements with the ray tracing performance. And to be honest with you, this is one of the things I was really hoping would happen because here's the thing. If you know me, you know that ray tracing is not something that interests me at all. I don't really care for ray tracing. If there's an option to toggle it off, I will disable it. I don't care. I don't think it improves my experience. I think ray tracing is whatever. I'm not here to shit on ray tracing. I am here to shit on AMD though, because one thing about ray tracing with AMD that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way is that in general, Um, so Linux is a supported platform that for like AMD cards. Like AMD explicitly supports this platform. Like it is like it's not like this is not a case where hey you're buying a graphics card. This is only meant to work on Windows and Linux is just like a consolation prize. No, no, no. Linux is a supported platform. Like AMD legitimately supports Linux, and so I feel like if you're buying an AMD card and they promote certain things, I believe it's completely fair that you, regardless if you're on Windows or Linux, you should be expecting a lot of those features that they promote to be available on Linux. And the problem that I had with RDNA 4 um, is that, for one, there was some performance regressions that were happening between Windows and Linux. I think for the most part, that's kind of getting ironed out over time. And also, it was a kind of a case by case thing because I'm pretty sure level one text was able to find a few scenarios where Linux was giving better performance than Windows, so it might be a case by case thing. But like, regardless, the performance wasn't even the thing that was bugging me the most. It's the fact that stuff like, for example, FSR4 wasn't working from the very beginning. I was about to cough there. I had stopped myself, but like, yeah, it's the fact that FSR4 wasn't working out of the box. The fact that the ray tracing performance, when you compare, like, because that was one of the things that they were really promoting with the RDNA 4. They were like, dude, this generation ray tracing, we're like going hands off. Like, we are, like, we're going, I don't know, balls out or whatever. But it's like, okay, fine, maybe on Windows, but like, I'm not seeing those performance improvements on Linux. Like, ray tracing still sucks on Linux overall with AMD cards. And so I was pretty disappointed when it came to that. And very recently, AMD announced that I think they might even reference in like this article, but like AMD very recently announced that they were going to essentially support RADV, the Vulkan driver, the open source Vulkan driver, because for a long time they had their own, which was like AMD VLK, but AMD VLK is complete doodoo, poopy doodoo, and so RADV is obviously better, and so AMD decided, okay, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna help RADV, and one of the things I was expecting from them is, hey, now that you guys are focusing a little bit more of your resources into supporting this Vulkan driver, I better hope to see some of the stuff that you guys. I mean, in this case, I don't think it was even AMD that brought these improvements. I think it was Valve. But and so yeah, even right now, I'm still not really. But whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm glad this whole 10 times faster ray tracing pipeline compilation. I'm really glad because I don't know. I feel like now people that bought, or which I have an RDNA 4 card. Again, I don't use ray tracing, but a lot of people might have bought this card expecting to get good ray tracing performance. So seeing this news is I'm really happy. Genuinely, I'm very happy to very I'm really happy to see this, and I do hope things will get better from now on. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to share. Switch to Linux.